Okay, and we're back, and this is week 6 of the coronavirus semester. So this is online session number 11. That is the first session of week 6. So we have a few things to dance through here, and rather than doing a review, as we don't do anymore, I did want to point out that you are responsible for the information that is presented through Zoom. So if you miss a class, you need to find out what happened from your friendly classmates and get more information. Because stuff that is in Zoom can be on your tests, and we are going to talk about tests right now. Not complete information, but some information. First thing, you've probably seen the news floating around in Daegu that 7 Daegu area university presidents had a meeting, and it's not quite all confirmed, but it sounds like we will be online all semester. That's not good. That's not my choice. It's not your choice. It is a health and safety choice, I guess. Not quite certain yet. It's not absolutely definite. Probably in this current week 6 we will hear the absolute definite news. I mentioned last week that professors were being surveyed about our preferences, what we wanted to do. But nobody promised that professors have the last choice. Nobody promised that students have the last choice. I don't have my lights on. Let's turn this off to a couple of lights. Alright, so nothing is definite yet. Anything can change, but right now it's starting to look like we're going to be online all semester. As I mentioned, the university has encouraged us to delay midterms, and so I'm delaying it 1 week. 1 week. So midterms will be the week of May 11 through 15. That is the week following some holidays. It's actually 1 week later than the originally rescheduled midterms, because you'll recall that everything got delayed 2 weeks. The whole semester was delayed 2 weeks, so midterms got moved back 2 weeks. And we're still working on that delayed 2-week semester, but we've moved back midterms 1 week. Okay, so the first formal notice for you about midterms with me. I have mentioned it before. Here's the formal notice. We have one-to-one, sometimes called man-to-man, oral interview test only in this class. And I had a picture for my one-to-one, but I've lost it. Oh well. So there is no listening test in this class like there is in EPA3. There is no paper test such as I use in EPA2. That means anything that I've lectured on, anything in the book, anything that could be on a paper test can be on an interview test. I can show you a piece of paper, and just like on a reading test or a other kind of paper test, and then you have to give me an answer. Speaking. Scheduling. Well, on the e-board in the notices section, I have put up a link to a Google Doc, a Google spreadsheet, where you can sign in your time. And we can just click up here. So it's in the notices board. click on the midterms timetable, and it says, click on this link to access the midterms timetable. Oh, you know what? That probably should have an apostrophe there. All blocks in this timetable are 15 minutes. Do not erase other people's registrations. Okay? You can change your own time until it's time for your test. But you can't change other people's times. Even if they ask you to, please don't do it. There is a log of all changes. I can see it. If you change somebody else's time and they complain, you have a problem. Okay? You have an ethics problem. You have changed somebody else's work. Do not change someone else's work. And I've provided the link to that form. I'm not quite perfectly sure if it's going to work right this minute, but let's just click on it and see what happens. Yes, it does. Unfortunately, you can't see all of it. Let's move it in. Okay. And it's your typical spreadsheet. You just click on it somewhere and write in your name. And somebody already has. Now, this is for all three of my classes. My day class, EPA1, my night class, EPA1, and EPA3. And this is somebody who's taken my class before because they know that to put a D in there, and I didn't even put that on this form, and I should. Please write D for EPA1 day. N for EPA1 night. And 3 for EPA3. Now I have a suspicion that the person who saw this, I'm not very good at names, you know. The person who saw this probably is in EPA3, but I'm not too worried about it. It'll get fixed. Anyway, you can see that the time runs until 9:30. Now the only problem is that I have EPA1 on Tuesday at 3 p.m. and I think I'm going to block that time out. I'm going to do that right now. 3 till 04 should do. Mark that as gray, and I'm going to EP1 day. Name it. And only I can edit in there. Except that it was supposed to color. It didn't. Ah, wrong thing. Supposed to be color. Alright. So now nobody can write in there. And my EPA1 night class is kind of the same, so from 8:30. I'll mark it a little earlier. I'm going to lock that. I may unlock this if we change how we do our paper test in that class. But for now, EPA1 night. Alright, so anyway, that is that. And you may not have been able to see this earlier. I had the screen funky. Midterm timetable, click on the link. Details on the examination will be provided through our lectures. I'm not giving you details on the test today. We'll talk about it in our Zoom, and we will talk about it next week. Alright, so that takes care of that. Let's go back, and if we look over, you'll see that there is more information that we're going to come to. All right, so that's the scheduling aspect for the midterms. April 30th is a Thursday, and it is a holiday. Now, somebody was asking about Saturday makeup classes, and I don't really want to do Saturday makeup classes. I think you don't either. So what I will do is record another lecture. It won't be available on Monday this week, but I'll get it up. And we'll have 2 recorded lectures the next week. That is April 27 through May 1. So our class would be April 27 and April 30th, and April 30th is a holiday. So fine. No problem with that. We will have a recorded lecture, not a Zoom, on the holiday, so you can enjoy Buddha's birthday. Fine, no problem. Nothing terribly important that I've mentioned here. The only thing that's really important is the scheduling, and that is on the Untitled, so you can find it. And I've talked slowly, and I've showed you everything I've done, so that's pretty easy. No problem. My only problem at the moment is I didn't start my clock, so I don't know. Okay. Last Zoom class, we did page 14 in the book. Arranging meetings and schedules is the topic for Unit 3. We looked at this man's palm, or personal digital device. And I mentioned that BlackBerry's was a kind of phone that was also a personal device, digital device. Palms, the model he has here, weren't very popular as phones. They were basically digital devices. So anyway, so we did that, and we had the idea of talking about your schedule for next week. Talking about your schedule for next week can be on the midterm test. And I don't have that starred in my book, so I'm going to start that right now. And you can lie. Okay, you can lie. But more common is the idea of setting up a meeting. And very often I do include setting up a meeting on the midterm test. So if you take a look at page 15, I'm not going to play the audio for page 15 in this class. We'll do it in the Zoom. Okay, we'll do it in the Zoom section later this week. But on my page 15, one thing I have marked down is times. In particular, what we call adverbs of frequency. Adverbs of frequency are words we use to, wrong class. Not adverbs of frequency, but prepositions of time, especially clock time. Okay. Adverbs of frequency is my EPA3 class, and I spaced it. Okay, prepositions of time. So, just to show you my book, my scribbly up book, you'll be able to see that up here, can you see it now? I've got some writing up here across the top. Quarter, till, of, and it's pretty sloppy. Now usually I do this stuff on the classroom whiteboard, and I require students to write it down. And I don't give them a nice, neat chart. But I can't draw, and I don't want to try to use some kind of a memo pad on this software. So instead, I've made a chart for you. And in the e-board, it's available as an image file, and it's also available to download as a PDF. So it's attached to PDF, included below is a JPG file. You can copy paste from the PDF the text. You can copy the text and drop it into something if you want. Actually, the PDF is a smaller file size. And actually, I think it's easier to read. You can blow it up or shrink it. But some people prefer image files for their phone or whatever. So I've dropped the image file in here so we can talk about it in this class. Okay, prepositions are words of relationship. When I was studying French back in high school, the teacher talked about prepositions, and I was like, what's a preposition? I don't know these labels. We call it meta language, M-E-T-A, meta language. That means the talk about the talk, the labels we give, the descriptions we give when we're talking about something. And my friend sitting next to me said, it's the box. I said, what? She said, it's the box. What are you talking about, the box? You know, for prepositions of location, it would be in the box, on the box, under the box, next to the box, above the box, around the box, at the box. So prepositions of location we can think of as like a box and around it. For a clock, we have to think about maybe the hands on the clock moving around and what comes before the hour. Ding, 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 ding. 4 o'clock, right? Or after, ding, 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 and then after the hour. So that's kind of how we work it. So I put this chart together for you. First, take a look on the far right. It says time. There's this little arrowy thing which apparently got messed up a little bit. It's just supposed to show you that there are things that we can do earlier and things we can do later. Now, earlier doesn't mean earlier in the day. Earlier means before the hour, or later means after the hour. So let's take a look. We have 3 columns here. The left column is what we might call the increment, the unit, the way of measuring. And then in the middle of this structure will be the preposition we use, the relationship word we use. And then to the far right in this column will be the hour on the clock, the full hour on the clock. Now there's more than these ways to tell, but we'll get to that in a moment. First of all, let's look at the classic time, which somebody might say, it's a quarter. Well, what's a quarter? A quarter means 25%. So let's think about a circle. And what's a quarter of a circle of a quarter of a pie? That's a quarter. 1/4. Why? Because quatre is French and Latin, and it means 4. If you think of Spanish, uno, dos, tres, cuatros, cuatro. And the same works on the other side. So that's a quarter. And you see how slowly I'm drawing here, and I can't write. I can't draw. That's why I gave you a table instead of trying to draw the whole table. So a quarter, 1/4. So a quarter means, in a 60-minute clock, a quarter means 15 minutes. Right? And of course, if we change this time marker and we talk about that, well, that would be 1/2. Half of an hour, a quarter of an hour. So those are our markers. Our increment of quarter, which is here, and half, which is here. quarter and half. Now, if you look carefully, you'll see that quarter is also here. Okay. Now, looking down the middle column for a moment, we see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 items, and then a line. This line goes across here. This line tells us to separate these two sections, right? That's what lines usually do. They tell us to separate. But it does not go through here. So in the hours section, this hours section is good for all, but these increments are only good for this section and this section. And the prepositions match the sections. Okay, so these are connected and these are connected. So far, okay? So we can say quarter till 11. Straight across. Quarter till 11. We can say quarter till 11 p.m., quarter till 11 a.m., but that would be kind of strange. Okay? Kind of strange. Possible. Kind of strange. We can say quarter till, or we can say a quarter till. Both are fine. So the parenthetical remark, the parentheses around something says optional. Say it or don't say it. I guess you know that AM is Latin. A means ante. Okay? Ante. Whoa, what happened there? How did that happen? Ante means before. Anybody study music? And P for post. Post means after. And the M is for meridian. M-E-R-I-D. A-N. See why you don't want me drawing? Alright. Meridian means middle. So think of the middle as middle of the day, noon. So AM means before noon. Ante meridian. And PM means afternoon, post meridian. Now, afternoon goes all the way until midnight. And ante meridian comes from midnight until noon. Wait, it gets ugly. We're going to talk about the noon and the midnight in a minute. Alright, so we can say a quarter till 11, a quarter until 11, a quarter to 11, quarter before 11, a quarter of 11. All 5 of these prepositions can be used pretty much the same. Now, until is a little bit less informal. Till is very casual, friendly talk, right? Anytime we start shortening words, it's a little more friendly. 20 till 11, 20 till, same. We can also say 20 minutes till, 20 minutes until. Okay, so 20 till, 20 minutes till, fine. 22:11. Do you hear the problem? 22:11. We don't like to use the preposition to without the minutes. And the reason is because it gets too confusing. 22, 22, 21, 22. It gets confusing. So usually when we say to, we want to use minutes. Alright? It just helps keep everything a little bit safer. Go back to my favorite color. Alright. We can use these till, until, to, before, of, from 1 minute until 29 minutes. Anywhere in here from 1 through 29 can be before the hour, of the hour, to the hour, until the hour, till the hour. And we can use any number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Any of those numbers with an AM or without an AM. With a PM or without a PM. But to be honest, we don't use AM and PM as often when we have numbers in front. Okay? The number in front, then the prepositions, and the hour. We don't use AM, PM as often. In the same way, we can use these with noon and midnight. Now, we can also use these same 1 through 12 plus noon and midnight for times, minutes after the hour. And we can say a quarter past 11. We can say a quarter after 11. We can say quarter past, quarter after. Half past, half after. Now you notice half was not up here in the before. We don't say 30 minutes before 12. We just don't. 10 minutes after, 10 after. Some people prefer using past. I generally use past when I'm just talking in a sentence. Okay? And then if I have to explain it more carefully, then I might say after. But I usually will say quarter past 5. 10 minutes past, 30 minutes past. You can say 30 or you can say half. You can say 15 or you can say quarter. 45 minutes past. All right? Now, you'll notice here also there are these two red parentheses and an empty spot. What I want to say here is that sometimes we don't use a preposition. All right? Sometimes we don't use a preposition. But basically, Americans and Canadians don't talk that way. But other people do. We'll get to that in a minute. All right. So let's look at the text here now that we've got a general template of how things work. The word minutes is always optional. You can use it, you cannot. That's what the parentheses are for. Following numbers in the increment section. 5 till 6 or 5 minutes till 6. Both are fine. Next, here's a typical problem. O'clock. O'clock is only used when we talk about the clock hour. It's 6 o'clock. We don't say 6 o'clock 15. We don't say 15 past 6 o'clock. Okay? O'clock is only used when we're using the full hour as the number in our mind. Doesn't mean 60 minutes, it just means I'm looking at the clock and I'm only looking at the hour number. I don't think about the rest. So I usually have dinner at 6 o'clock. Sometimes 5:55, sometimes 6:15. Now, if we are using minutes after the hour, we're putting the sentence the other way. We don't use a preposition and we don't say minutes. And we don't say AM or PM, which we can write lowercase a dot, lowercase m dot, or capital A, capital M. Notice there's dots, periods, in the lowercase, but not when we use the capital letters. AM and PM are not used until we get to the end of the sentence. So 12:15, not 12 past 15, not 12 and 15 minutes. Right? If we put the hour in front, nothing comes after except minutes. That sounds more like that digital time, like you see on your computer, right? It's just numbers. We're just reading numbers. It doesn't feel like the old style round clock where we're thinking that way. We call that an analog clock versus a computer has a digital clock, just numbers. 12:45 or possibly 12:45 p.m. Okay, so in this area where there's nothing said, that style is more European. North Americans don't really talk like that. And some Europeans, Irish, British, Other people in Europe who speak English will use it, but it's not so common in the US. Now I have one other thing to show here, but I'm not sure I can scroll the page down, so I'm going to have to pick the page up. Come on. Oh goodness, how come I can't move it? We're stuck. Alright, what you cannot see in this picture, strangely enough, is don't use 12 a.m. or 12 p.m. Don't say 12 a.m. Don't say 12 p.m. It confuses everybody. Alright, I got my time fixed. Don't say 12 a.m. Don't say 12 p.m. It confuses everybody. And there's always somebody who thinks he's so smart who says, oh yes, 12 a.m. means midnight and 12 p.m. means noon or vice versa or whatever. And I always say, I don't know. Well, in fact, the U.S. government printing office, print all the books, they have a style guide. They say how you should write things. And up until 2008, they said 12 a.m. noon, 12 p.m. for midnight. But then in 2008, they flipped them. So nowadays, according to the U.S. government printing office, 12 a.m. means midnight and 12 p.m. means midday. It's just confusing. So it's best to say noon, midnight, 12 noon, 12 midnight. Okay? Don't say 12 a.m., 12 p.m. It just messes things up. Alright. We've gone through the e-board here. I want to point out to you that you had some assignments. The deadline for assignments was Sunday night, was past tense. Sunday night, 11:59 p.m. Now, I'm recording this at 7:47 p.m. Sunday night. So while I'm recording this, it's not yet closed. But if you look in week 6, which is what this class is for, it's empty. Remember I said the e-board, the 학습 자료, records things according to when I post, not when it's supposed to be read. So if we go down to week 5, I have to move the board over, you can see listening logs and notebook checks. Listening log. As of 7:48 p.m. Sunday night, only 46% of students have uploaded a copy of their listening log. And that's bad. And you were given the assignment and you were told to do it, and just like at work, the boss doesn't nag and tell you, you got to, you're responsible to do it. So if you didn't do it, you lose. Okay? And if I am not grading it for performance, this first time it's just a look-see to make sure that you're keeping up and that I can give you some feedback. So it's just like 1 point. You did it or you didn't. But all these little 1 points start adding up, right? Remember that your midterm is only 20 points. Alright. So we are done with the e-board system. The notebook, the listening log is done. I've put up a notice about the midterm timetable. I gave you a notice earlier. Every week we'll have a Zoom. You can check that. Let's close that. So, we actually don't need that either, but then that would give you a totally blank board. I can enlarge myself a little bit if you really want to see me. Maybe you don't. Anyway, so, as I mentioned, prepositions of time are on the top of my page, page 15. And we will do the listen and practice talking in our Zoom class. That's page 15. So turn the page to page 16. And page 16 is when we start working on listening to timetables. Now again, on your midterm test, we're going to have a timetable exercise. And I'm not going to tell you more about it. You need to be ready to talk about times. So, page 16, it's a pretty full schedule. Let's go ahead and listen to the recording.
Page 16, Business Connections. Listening. It's a pretty full schedule. Exercise 1. Margaret Grant and Joe Verducci are traveling to Mexico to visit a manufacturing plant. They are discussing their schedule. Listen. Write T true or F false.
Very easy instructions. All you have to do for ABC is write T or F.
So what have they planned for our trip to Mexico next week?
Well, it's a pretty full schedule. The flight arrives in Mexico City at 9:30 on Monday morning.
Is somebody picking us up?
Yes, I think Jose Ferraro is meeting us there, and we're going straight out to the plant.
Oh, really?
Yes, the plant is right near the airport. We're meeting the production manager there at 11.
Okay, so we'd better be ready for that.
Yes. Then at 12:30 we're going to the head office for a design presentation. They've got some technical data we need to look at. Then Jose will probably take us to lunch.
What time will that be?
That'll be about 2 o'clock. And we're meeting the director of Latin American operations at 4.
Are we going back to the plant on Tuesday?
Yes. At 10 we're meeting with some of the production teams and the engineers. Then there's a general meeting with the whole team at 12.
Oh, that's good.
Yes, that will be very helpful.
What about the afternoon?
Well, we're having lunch at 2, and we need to leave for the airport at 5.
That doesn't leave much time for sightseeing.
No? Oh, not at all.
Okay, so ABC, true or false? A. When they arrive, Margaret and Joe are going to the head office. True or false? False. They're going straight to the plant. B. There is a design presentation on Monday before lunch. True. Now this one's a little bit of a trick maybe, because they build this sentence and say there's a design presentation, then we're going to lunch. When will that be? About 2 o'clock. So what you might know about Mexican, Central American, South American culture, and to some degree Europe too, is they tend to eat a little bit later. They eat lunch a little bit later, and they eat dinner sometimes much, much later. Americans tend to be more of a lunch is noon. I think the British are pretty much that way too. We often start our days earlier. We might start our day at 8 or 8:30. Korea has seemed to adopt the American lunch is noon. But, and then dinner is, well, you get off work at 6 or so and you race home and you have dinner at 7 maybe. Or when I was young, my father finished work early. He went to work early. He was in the Navy. And so we usually had dinner around 5:30. But other people had dinner at 7:30 or 8. So, B. There's a design presentation on Monday before lunch. It is true. C. They will have time for sightseeing on Tuesday. False. Well, that doesn't leave much time for sightseeing. No, not at all. No, it doesn't. All right. Now, we'll play it again, and you'll fill in the blanks in the blue box just below on the page. Now again, I'm not going to test you about Margaret Grant and Joe Verducci. Okay? I'm not interested in the details of Margaret and Joe. This is simply listening practice. By the way, if you've noticed and if you care, I have a earphone in my ear. The reason is because previously I was using the open mic setting, the mic that's built into my webcam, and I had to play the audio through the speaker system on the computer so that I could hear it. And it gave you a kind of a feedback. It gave you a double play, an echo effect. Echo is probably the right word. So by putting the earphone in, it cuts out the speaker on my computer, so you only hear the audio straight from the computer. That should be improving your listening experience, I hope. And if you're wondering why I'm only wearing one earphone, well, it's because this is a really old and raggedy earphone set, and it actually broke. I don't know if you can see this. I put it from my face. Yeah, maybe you can see that. It actually broke further up the line, and so I just ripped it apart. I didn't even cut it. I just kind of ripped the wire out so that it's a convenient one-ear system. It doesn't dangle around and make a mess. Because I don't want to wear a headphone because it's actually not very comfortable when you wear glasses. Some of you guys know that. Alright, we're going to listen again. Again, I have kind of killed a couple of minutes between the first listen and the second listen, so your brain lost a little bit, you forgot a little bit. Now you're hearing it fresh again. Let's go.
Page 16. Business connections. Listening. It's a pretty full schedule. Exercise 1. Margaret Grant and Joe Verducci are traveling to Mexico to visit a manufacturing plant. They are discussing their schedule. Listen. Write T true or F false.
So what have they planned for our trip to Mexico next week?
Well, it's a pretty full schedule. The flight arrives in Mexico City at 9:30 on Monday morning.
Is somebody picking us up?
Yes, I think Jose Ferraro is meeting us there, and we're going straight out to the plant.
Oh, really?
Yes, the plant is right near the airport. We're meeting the production manager there at 11.
Okay, so we'd better be ready for that.
Yes. Then at 12:30 we're going to the head office for a design presentation. They've got some technical data we need to look at. Then Jose will probably take us to lunch.
What time will that be?
That'll be about 2 o'clock. And we're meeting the director of Latin American operations at 4.
Are we going back to the plant on Tuesday?
Yes. At 10 we're meeting with some of the production teams and the engineers. Then there's a general meeting with the whole team at 12.
Oh, that's good.
Yes, that will be very helpful.
What about the afternoon?
Well, we're having lunch at 2, and we need to leave for the airport at 5.
That doesn't leave much time for sightseeing.
No, not at all.
Okay, well, darn. Sometimes the back of the book will have the dialogues, the scripts. And sometimes they don't, and I have to use the professor's book, and I don't have the professor's book with me while I'm here at home recording. The professor's book is in the office, so that means I don't have all the scripts in front of me. Alright, let's check it. Where's my page? Alright, so flight arrives 9:30 a.m. in Mexico City. Meet Jose Ferrar at the airport. Go to the plant. 11 o'clock. Meet production team. 11 o'clock. Meet production team. 12:30. Design presentation at the head office. Now, they didn't actually say that, I think. I don't remember. But they definitely said it was before lunch. And then lunch is at 2 o'clock. Because Joe said, oh, when's lunch? You know, then we'll have a presentation at the head office, and then lunch. He says, when's that? 2 o'clock. So lunch is at 2. Then 4 o'clock we have a meeting with the director of Latin American operations. Now, we didn't really talk about operations before, as I recall. We talked about production. I'm going to talk about operations in a minute. All right, let's finish this one. Tuesday, 10 a.m., meet with the production team and engineers. We get to meet the production again. 12 o'clock is a general meeting. 2 o'clock is lunch. And what was it? 4 o'clock, go to the airport? I don't remember. What did they say? 4 o'clock? I lost my time. It's here the end. Go back to... You guys heard it. You guys wrote it down maybe.
Will be very helpful.
What about the afternoon?
Well, we're having lunch at 2, and we need to leave for the airport at 5.
At 5.
That doesn't leave much time for sightseeing.
No.
Okay. Now, operations. Well, operations means the things you do. The things you do. The things you do. When we talk about a company, there's usually 2 sections, and they're usually not discussed very much publicly. But everybody in the company knows about it. One side is the side that makes money. They manufacture, they distribute, they sell, they make money. And there are sections directly related to that make money team, which could be things like purchasing. Purchasing might be considered operations. The side that makes money, the side that does. The other side of the company is the side that eats money. HR does not make money for the company. Their job is to find good workers, figure out ways to keep good workers, get rid of bad workers, keep records of the workers. We got things like payroll and accounting. Okay, these are the side of the company that doesn't help make money, but we often think about them as helping to prevent losing money. And that's important. That's a good thing. But that's not operations. Operations is the part of the business that produces, that makes things. So if you are working at a LG telephone shop selling cellular service and phones, you're on operations. Your goal is to make money for the company. If you are in the service center that is repairing phones, and we don't make money in repairs, we don't charge for repairs, it's hard to say if that's operations or not. Some companies would call it operations because we can't sell if we don't have the good operations, right? People buy our phone because there's good service. I buy Samsung phone because I know if it breaks, I get it fixed. If I want to buy something cheap, where I don't care about service, I bought a cheap notebook computer, and if it dies, it dies. It's not going to get fixed, I'm pretty sure, right? So that's how we kind of think about it. If it's helping to make money, it's operations. But every company could have a different idea about what's operations and what's not. And so we sometimes have a vice president of operations, right? Making money. And then we have a vice president of administration. Sorry, young people. Public administration is often thought of as bureaucracy. It's not thought of as making money. It's thought of not wasting money. Right? Now, it's a service. And services are considered operations. If you're in a restaurant, the whole restaurant basically is service, and that's operations because it's how you make your money. But people often think public administration is not about, doesn't have that business mind to make money. They just spend money and waste money and make paperwork. That's the hard side. Okay, we're going to do one more part on this page today. Down at the bottom, numbers. Again, as I've said many times, numbers are important. Numbers are important. Numbers are difficult for language learners, especially in Korea. It's tough. So this time we're going to listen to numbers, but these are time numbers, and these are gate numbers. Gate at the airport, which place do you go out the door to get on the plane? You can have gates at the bus terminal in Korea, gates at the train station, but we don't usually call them gates at the train station. We usually call them platforms, train platforms. In Korea, they usually identify it as a track because one platform has two sides. If you remember your, what was his name? The boy who was a wizard. Their track was kind of, or their platform was kind of an imaginary something and a half, right? And they ran their cart into a brick wall to get into the other side. So, platform is usually thought of as something you stand on. The tracks are lower, right? So we could say a bus platform if you stand higher and you just kind of walk straight into the bus instead of having to climb. But okay, anyway, on a train it's usually called a platform, and at an airport it's usually called a gate. We're going to listen to the airport announcements, write the gate number, and circle the correct comments. Please notice that we have lots of accents here, so it's not quite so easy. So let's go. 25.
Page 16. Numbers. Exercise 3. Listen to the airport announcements. Write the gate number and circle the correct comments.
Western Air Flight 194 to Singapore is now boarding at gate 86. Will all passengers on this flight please go to gate 86? Would the last remaining passengers on Atlantic Air Flight 103 to London please proceed immediately to gate 84? This flight is now in its final boarding. This is an announcement for passengers on Northern Air Flight 560 to Taipei. This flight will now depart from gate 72. I repeat, flight 560 to Taipei will now depart from gate 72. Western Air Flight 191 to Mexico City is now boarding at gate 67. Will passengers on this flight please proceed immediately to gate 67? This is an announcement for all passengers on Atlantic Air Flight 182 to Frankfurt. This flight has been delayed. We expect to begin boarding at approximately 9 o'clock at gate 79. Passengers on this flight should go to gate 79.
Okay, so pretty straightforward. I'll just read across each line. The time, the flight, the destination, the gate, and the comments. And you fill in the gate number and you circle the appropriate comment. At 8:45, WA194, or Western Airlines 194, destination Singapore, gate 86 is now boarding. Please go to the gate. 8:50, AA, what was that, American Airlines? I don't know. 103, destination London, gate 84 is now boarding. 9:20, Northern Airlines 560 to Taipei, gate 72, please go to the gate. 8:45, Western Airlines 191 to Mexico City, gate 67 is now boarding. 9 o'clock, AA 182, destination Frankfurt, at gate 79 has been delayed. Okay, again, I'm not going to test you on those numbers, it's just skill practice. Take a look at page 17. And if you look at my book, you'll see that I have an X on the page. Don't be confused. That X means that I don't usually do it in my class. Doesn't mean that it's bad stuff. I don't usually do it in my class. It is a perfectly good thing to do, but because EPA3 kind of races through the book, we skip some sections. But I want to point out the language boxes on the page. At the top right of the page is a orange box with good language. Can you see this here? And it's talking about negotiating time. We could say things like, I'm available after, let's have lunch. Well, I'm available after 12:30. Right? I can't have an early lunch, but I'm available after 12:30. Or lunch today, I'm afraid I can't make it. I'm booked all day. Right? I'm sorry, I'm busy. Now, I don't like to say I'm busy. Okay? And I'm going to show you that I'm marking my book. I have never marked it, actually, this section before. It's not very clear, you probably can't read it. But I don't like the word I'm busy. I'm busy sounds like I'm more important than you. You're lazy. You good for nothing bum. I'm busy. So I don't like to say I'm busy. It's far better to say I'm sorry I can't make it. Right? I'm afraid I can't make it. I'm sorry I can't make it. It means the same thing. So, when can you make it? Okay, make it only means meet our time. When can you arrive? When can you be available? Okay, it doesn't mean you're making something. To make it means you can arrive there, or you can get there, you can be there. So a good question would be, well then, how about? So if we're negotiating a time, like on our midterm test, I might tell you, you have to say no 3 times. Or I might give you a timetable and say, this is your timetable, and I have my timetable. And we are negotiating a time. So, of course you could use your junior high school English and get through that kind of activity with no difficulty. But I want to hear that you're using higher level English, that you're using language from the book. Right? So I want to hear you say things like, I'm afraid I can't make it. I'm sorry I can't make it. So when can you make it? You can always turn it around and say, well, I can't make it this time, but when can you make it? At the bottom of the page in the purple box, it shows some acceptance, some agree. Yeah, good idea, I want to do it. Okay, accepting an invitation. I'd like to, or I'd love to. Right? That would be great. That would be very nice. Thank you. Okay. Let's go to the coffee shop after class. That's wonderful. That's great. Yes, let's go. Oh, I'd love to. Because in Korea, the person who invites is supposed to pay, right? Isn't that how it works? Unless I say, shall we go to the coffee shop? A Dutch treat? Okay? Not Dutch pay. Dutch pay is not quite right. It's Dutch treat. Right? It means each person is responsible for their own share. Okay, the last part for tonight's class is page 18. It's the reading. I'm always really big on the readings. And related to the reading is a key vocabulary item. The reading itself is about video conferencing, and in a way it's kind of old technology, the way they describe it. But on the other hand, you could certainly say that our Zoom class is video conferencing. Web conferencing, video conferencing. 20 years ago, video conferencing might be through the telephone, or possibly through Skype. Skype was just getting started. Or through satellite. Through the satellite up in the stars. So, let's take a look. It's time to try video conferencing. Thanks to video conferencing, attorneys Fred Parnan and George Pratt have become virtual partners in Parnan's office. 2 years ago, Parnan set up a video conferencing system between his New York office and Pratt's suburban home so that Pratt could avoid the long commute into the city. Okay, now we have talked before about commute, and in our class last week, we talked about suburban. Very quickly, it wasn't the key point, but we did talk about suburban. Do you remember urban and suburban? Okay, we'll come back to that. The partners keep the system on all the time. It's as if we're in the same office with our desk touching, says Parnan. I miss him when it's turned off. Are you laughing at my voice? The technology lets us see each other's face and hand gestures, which gives us much better communication than we would have just talking on the phone, says Parnan. Gestures? Gestures? Gestures are the things we do with our hands, our face, our body language, things that, it's movements that are part of our communication. So, for example, Italians are famous for being very much filled with gestures. They can't talk without moving their hands. That's the joke, all right? I don't say it's true. The evil joke is that if you want an Italian to stop talking, you handcuff him. Because if he can't move his mouth. Oh, terrible joke, right? It's just a joke. It's not real. I don't believe it. But gestures, the kinds of things you do with your face and your hands as part of your speaking to help communicate. We call it body language often. Okay, next paragraph. More and more small business CEOs are using this increasingly affordable and available business tool. Apart from reducing travel, video conferencing systems have other useful features. For example, a function called a shared whiteboard. For example, using a function called a shared whiteboard, participants at great distances can work on the same document at the same time, or see the results instantly on their computer screens. Now remember, when they made this book, we didn't have Google Docs. While video conferencing is not yet as quick and easy as a telephone call, analysts say that the day is coming. So along with your cell phone and beeper numbers, email address, and fax number, you might also need to put your video conferencing station number on your business card. Notice they said cell phone and beeper, because back then many people would have a cell phone and a beeper separately, because beepers were quite cheap, but cell phones, especially in like USA, were quite expensive to talk on and get messages on. So people would use a beeper, like a doctor or a lawyer would have a beeper, and when it beep 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 beep, then he would go to find a pay phone on the wall, or then he would use his cell phone. But the beeper was somehow much cheaper, so people would use that. All right, so let's take a look at these sentences. Match the beginning and endings of the sentences. You go ahead and take a look. A, B, C, D, E, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'll give you about 5 minutes for that. 4 minutes. A, B, C, D, E, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Go. working on those, right? I'm just digging up a picture for you. One more minute? Maybe less. Okay, A. Parnan and Pratt set up a video conferencing system. We know this. 3. Because Pratt wanted to work from his home. Why? Why did he want to work from his home? Because he had a tough commute. Remember, commute means the traveling back and forth. I commute to school from Mediang. Takes me 2 hours. Because he had a tough commute. Okay, let's take a look at commute for just one more minute. I have a picture for you. This is a commuter cup or a commuter mug. Now I know many people will call what I'm holding right here a mug cup. And yeah, it's a mug or it's a cup. Mug cup is kind of redundant. It's like saying cup or mug. But that's fine. But it's not a commuter cup. It's not a commuter mug. But this one is. So what's the difference? Notice that the bottom, whoops, I can't do it that way, I have to do it this way. The bottom is quite big. Right? The bottom is quite big compared to the top. And usually, if we can tip the mug over, a commuter cup will have a rubber bottom. A no-skid bottom. Like if you look at this glasses cloth. If you can see it, you'll see that it has all these little bumpies. They're kind of rubbery so that it doesn't slide, it sticks. So a commuter cup is something that we think of as being no tip. Right? It doesn't tip over. No slip, it doesn't slide. So no tip, no slip. Like that. Sometimes say no slip, no tip. Okay. Very often they come with a cover. Let's turn that off. Very often they come with a cover, like nowadays so many students are using tumblers, and you can close it up. A tumbler usually has a smaller bottom than a top. And that's kind of the meaning of a tumbler. If you think about gymnastics, tumblers are people who can roll over and over and over. So tumblers can tip over easy, but a tumbler has a closed top, so it won't spill. If you want your tumbler to be a commuter cup, then it should have a kind of a ring. that connects onto your car or clips onto to something on the train or the bus, and you can slide your cup in and it won't tip over. So, for example, on the trains in Korea, all the cups have the little ring like an airplane where you can slide a cup in and it won't tip over. So in that way, maybe a tumbler is a commuter mug or a commuter cup. It's not a mug, because mug usually means that it's not much taller than it is wide. So if we look at this one, you can see how wide it is. About that much of my finger, or my thumb is sticking out, and it's taller than it is wide, but it's very close. It's very close. So a mug, or a commuter mug, commuter cup. All right. Come on. Technology's giving me a headache today. B. Parnan prefers video conferencing to the telephone. Because he can see his partner's facing and hand gestures, right? Video is better than audio only. C. Small business CEOs like video conferencing because it reduces the amount of travel. Travel is not only cost money, travel is not only takes time, travel also takes energy. I'm tired, right? D. Video conferencing systems are also useful because people in different locations can work on material at the same time. Well, that's a maybe. In many business video conferencing systems, they have a shared whiteboard and a Google Doc, whatever. But in others, they don't. Like again, Skype has been around for 20 years, and Skype doesn't have a shared doc. E. Executives may soon list station numbers on their business cards because the use of video conferencing will be increasing. Okay? 25 years ago, very few people had cell phones. So, times change, it goes on and on. Alright, so we've got commuter cups, no slip, no tip. It's got a cover, so no spill. So we can now put it together and say, no slip, no tip, no spill. 3 parts. That's on this recording, that's not on the 학습자료. And very often they may have a hanger to hang on to the car door or something like that. Alright, the other thing I wanted to go back and review is this idea of urban and suburban. And we can say rural, which I mentioned in the Skype last time, and the Zoom last time. So urban means in the city. Suburban, sub, means under or connected to but lesser. So suburban means the cities and towns that are connected to the big city. We often call them bedroom communities, and we could say that Gyeongsan is a suburb of Daegu. And Daegu has an urban core, the downtown area. Urban feels like big city, again, metropolitan. And then rural will be the farming areas where there are not so many people living. Rural could also be called countryside. Okay? Be careful, because country and county are different, right? County means gun. Country means gu, right? Hanguk, Korea. But countryside means rural, means feels like farm and mountains and not many people. That is our session 11, first class of week 6 in EPA3. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to contact me by Kakao or email or text message, and I'll try to get back to you. You can put something up on the Q&A section on the e-board. I look at that once or twice a week. And I'll see you in the Zoom class later this week. Thank you very much.